The greatest 2K game on these consoles to date. I feel pretty comfortable giving 16 that title. This is a game so nice that I played it twice. As in, I put NBA 2K17 down by December and literally went back to 16 to finish up that year until 18 dropped. That's how much fun I was having. You may recall me saying that I wasn't much looking forward to covering the PlayStation 4 titles, mainly because it seems people have lost their affinity for 2K over this generation. Excessive VC barriers, gameplay bugs and glitches, inexplicable downgrades in graphics. Yeah, 6 games into these systems' life cycles and I can confidently say we went backwards in the world of 2K. But at least for the moment, we can look back on a truly great piece of work they developed with this installment. In this series, we rank 2K titles based on their presentation, gameplay, graphics, features, and I truly think 16 passes each category with flying colors. To start, it's definitely up for debate, but this game may have the greatest intro in 2K history, which I've probably said 2 or 3 times by now. 12's was fire, 13's was fire, 14's was epic, but 16's was just very unique, kinda like 12's. It was an animation of a My player facing off against NBA superstars and Michael Jordan, and personally I like the cartoonish theme they went for, but I'll admit 2K12's was probably still better. I just didn't like the fact that in this one, they transitioned from this animation to the generic guy. I mean, I got the point, but this whole look and gear, it just ruined the vibe for me. Like, 2K generics are never it, and neither is the 00s. Whatever, that's not the point. The fact that I'm debating it with the likes of 12 and 13, yeah, this intro was a massive W, and it's one of the rare video game intros I didn't make a habit of skipping. Once the intro ran its course, you were brought into another 3D space with the Jumbotron similar to 2K15, only there was a beautiful twist this time. As you navigated through different sections, it would move you to different spaces within the arena by showing you a fully 3D modeled player dribbling around. Whoever came up with this theme over at 2K, please catch this W. Easily one of the coolest things that 2K has ever done in terms of presentation. It doesn't stop there though. After you selected a team, your loading screen was masked by awesome segments with the Shaq and Ernie show that now featured Kenny Smith. You may recall the 2K7 review where I discussed Kenny's stamp of approval at the halftime. Adding him to the set here is yet another massive W for this game. Also, just look at the designs as they're discussing the players. This is the stuff that we end up skipping throughout the year and not caring about, but it's just beautifully done. The presentations at the start of the games were revamped as well. Very lifelike and immersive, identical to what we expect out of national anthems in real life. Maurice Spates even has that spot fully detailed on his head. That takes us into gameplay, and there were many beautiful additions that contributed to this not only being a massive upgrade from 15, but a game that I was able to play for 2 straight years. 2K added what they called the living world to 16, which was basically making the game as lifelike as possible. Animations specific to certain players and teams mimicked real life, basically so you didn't feel like you were playing the same team from game to game. It also included the defense's ability to truly adjust to what we were doing. Recall the 15 review where I discussed how easy that game felt after the shooting patch. My shots started going in at like a 60+% rate, and that's all it took for the sense of challenge to go away. In 16 though, you couldn't keep doing the same thing from play to play or game to game to succeed. Play a certain way too long, and the computer would defend you differently, causing you to have to adjust your game plan. And this truly was different between teams. I have a specific example. In the My Leagues I did, the 06 Phoenix Suns defended me differently than any other team in the league. Most teams would start doubling LeBron in the post after a while, so I couldn't just feast for easy points. The Suns, however, were totally content to let me score 80 with him, just as long as I couldn't really get my teammates involved. It didn't really work out how they wanted, but still, it was cool to see different coaches actually approach my strategy differently so that I wasn't doing the same thing every single game. This was the year you also started to see complex thinking from the AI on offense, which is actually still one of my favorite parts about 2K19. Something such as a player cut cutting a certain way on offense and you cutting off their lanes, so they have to make a decision whether to take the option you'd given them instead of just trying to run through you while running out the clock. The system works really well in making 19's computer challenging, and NBA 2K16 was the basis for it. Another key addition: every player had up to 4 size-up moves you could trigger, and I still find these extremely helpful to this day when trying to keep defenders on their toes as I'm ready to use a screen. The post-up system was also reworked, which is one of the most important changes on this console generation. Instead of pressing triangle for your player to put his back to the basket, it just happened whenever you pressed or let go of the L trigger. That has been infinitely more useful than tapping a button to go in and out of the post. It just feels so much more fluid. And for passing, they added dedicated buttons to give you a bounce pass, a lob pass, or just a regular pass. How did we even play 2K before we had those options? Their new foot planting system also made the players feel much more lifelike. It gave them a new sense of weight as they were moving around, cutting, and it was a huge boost to the physics of the game. Speaking of physics, the entire motion system was also revamped to lessen the chances of you getting stuck in animations, and I say to lessen the chances because it definitely did not eliminate the problem, as I'm still getting stuck in animations to this day. Oh yeah, speaking of those, they claim to have added in the neighborhood of 9,000 to 10,000 new animations that year. That brings us into graphics, and I'm feeling like I might have made a mistake, guys. I called NBA 2K14 the best looking 2K of all time, but when I did the actual comparison, I'm not so sure anymore. 14 will always have its unique lighting, but 16 is absolutely gorgeous, and at the very least contends with 14 as the best looking 2K. In any case, it was a huge upgrade from what we had in 15. The colors are beautiful, light reflects off the players nicely, the lighting on the court wasn't completely wrecked and dull like the previous year. This is more so what I expected after 2K14. The whole look of the game also benefited from all the different crowd animations based on what was happening in the game. I don't know, I just felt like 2K was really focused on the environment and the look that year, and they succeeded in a way they haven't done since then. That moves us right along into the features, and we never start with anything other than my career. This was one of the biggest years for the mode. Of course, we know they let Spike Lee handle the writing, and I mean, whatever. We all love Vic, right? But I'm never big on the stories, period. They've all been cringe to me. However, there were 2 really big things they did that I really liked. First were the revamped parks, and I have no clue why they didn't really advertise this on their channel because these were gorgeous. I remember logging in for the first time and realizing I'd seen 0 advertisement for them, specifically the Sunset Park, which was more of a resort type thing, and it's still one of my favorite parks of all time. The other huge addition was my court, and although we've probably gotten bored of it this many years later, it was revolutionary when it dropped. It was your own court for your My Player that you could decorate, display your accolades and shoes in, and invite friends over to play. This was the first step in giving our players a personal space, which was something that had been long overdue since the days of the crib back in NBA 2K7. The actual gameplay had many great features as well. For the first time ever, you could go to high school and college before making it to the league, which was something we'd been asking for many years prior. Once you were actually in the league, there were endorsement deals and connections you could make with other players for rewards. The live practice option was added as well, where you could do drills to increase your attributes, which was a nice callback to something I really liked in 2K on the PS3. It was also a building block for what we've gotten in 2Ks after this. As far as customization, there was a ton of new gear added you could get from shops inside the parks, and you also now had a wide variety of tattoos to choose from, which I'm pretty sure got them in legal altercations at some point. All in all, there was a lot added to this mode that had already seen plenty of additions by this point, and plenty of important steps taken to shape what my career looks like today. So now for the rest of the game. Inside of Play Now, you had multiple options. Checking up on Blacktop, this is my favorite iteration on these consoles, and sadly, the last one that I enjoyed using. For the final time that we know of, players actually wore their own jerseys, which was pretty helpful compared to what came in the future. The actual level was pretty cool itself too. There was no option to play on other courts, but I was more than happy to routinely play here. After this year, they opted for stupid shirts that confuse you as to who's actually on the court, and yeah, they've used the same level for 3 straight years, so there's that. I used to take the statistical leaders from MYLEAGUE at the end of every week and play a Blacktop game, but there's just no enjoyment in that anymore without them wearing their own jerseys. The only real new thing here was Play Now Online, the infamous mode that attempted to restore glory days to one-on-one matches, but has only gotten worse each year. The gist of it was correct though. Think back to NBA 2K9 where I talked talked about how it was the last time online really felt like its own special mode. In Play Now Online, we now have our own leagues that we'd have to rank up through, where we'd win trophies and unlock legend teams in the process. The other thing they did was split teams up into tiers, which was supposed to decrease the likelihood that you always played the same team. Good idea, because in older 2Ks, yeah, you would just constantly run into whatever super team there was that year. However, the one consistent problem since Play Now's inception is that they never do maintenance on it. I've literally been running into the team that I use consistently for 4 years now, and 2K hasn't so much as addressed this problem. Play Now brings in no VC revenue, so it always seems to be their last priority. For MyLeague and MyGM, the biggest additions were the ability to completely rebrand your team and move them to another city if you desired. You could design your own uniforms, arenas, basically just create whatever you could come up with. This same design system was used for your My Team, which added a new dynamic, and you could use it for Pro-Am, which we'll get into in a moment. But seriously, this arena design has been a really cool feature, and it's great that they've kept it around. You could decide everything down to what restaurants would be in your arena and whether or not you had Wi-Fi, which would affect your fan attendance. From MyLeague and MyGM, the team's AI also became smarter as well. Instead of just handling business in the present, they would also make decisions about when to value draft picks or prospects versus when they should cash in for a player that would make them a contender. There were also a ton of small features added, like being able to player lock a certain guy on your team if you wanted to simulate a My Career type feel, progression sliders to set how training would affect your players, and even more stats were added for you to keep up with around the league. It really felt like if you could look it up on Basketball Reference, you could find it in the game as well. In My Team, the Gauntlet mode was added, which was a 3-on-3 street ball mode you could play against other people online. So basically triple threat in NBA 2K19. Trials were added as well as a way to earn My Team points. Moments cards were added for when a player went off in real life. Shoe cards became available to boost attributes, and the rankings of the cards changed. Those were pretty much the major additions to the mode that year. And finally, the addition of Pro-Am, which was basically the crew rebranded. As said earlier, this mode also utilized the team creator where you could customize absolutely everything about your squad, and this was a bit cooler considering it was an identity for a team that you shared between you and your friends. Other than that, it wasn't anything much different than we already had before. So now we rank. Presentation is an easy 10, like so easy that it's laughable. The players in the menu, the loading screen, the pre-games. Yeah, this is my favorite presentation since NBA 2K7. And as rare as it is to ever give a 2K game a 10 on gameplay, that's where I'm gonna go with NBA 2K16. I'll tell you that even to this day, it would make me physically sick to even imagine playing an older 2K while a new one is out. Normally, at least the animations make the old one go obsolete, but I was able to play this game for a whole 2 years like it was nothing. Not to say I never got pissed and called BS on the CPU like I do every year, but the base gameplay was good enough for me to prefer it to a new game with all the changes they'd made. It wasn't like now where I'm losing games because of glitched illegal screens and watching my CPU defenders mindlessly reach in and foul for no reason. They truly worked on their craft that year and it showed. Graphics also get a 10. Like I said, this rivals 2K14 for the best graphics of any 2K game, and any 2K that can even hold a candlestick to 14 graphics wise is doing something right. And to complete the Infinity Gauntlet, yes, features is getting a 10. You know, I don't like Play Now Online in the modern day, but it was at least a step in the right direction in a time where it seemed like they totally disregarded that mode. I hadn't felt that sense of actually accomplishing something against other players since NBA 2K9, so although they've needed some very simple tweaks to truly make this mode great, it was a good idea for the time, and it's something that's gotten progressively worse. And My Career. They added some of the most important features that year, and it was basically the bridge to where we are now in giving our characters personal spaces to roam. That gives us our only other 10 of the series next to 2K11. And I'll go ahead and tell you, there will be no more 10s. I'm about to fucking cook 17 and 18 rotisserie style, so be prepared for that. It's gonna be a lot of fun at the end of this though, deciding what the greatest 2K of all time actually is. 12 and 11 were already neck and neck, and 16 is without a doubt the best on this console generation, so looking forward to that. Make sure to leave what you think in the comment section, hit the like button, comment, and sub if you enjoyed, and hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications when the next video comes out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.